Welcome to my channel, a vlog that brings your story about the love of a mafia boss. Now let's listen.
The rain had started as a whisper, then turned into a roar that drowned out every other sound in the city. I stood outside Luciano's, the kind of restaurant where a single appetizer cost more than my weekly rent, clutching a soggy paper bag that contained someone's $80 carbonara. My sneakers were soaked through, my jacket doing nothing against the cold that had settled deep into my bones. I'd been doing this for 6 months now, delivering food to people who probably didn't even glance at faces like mine. The smell of garlic and truffle oil wafted from the bag, making my stomach clench. I couldn't remember the last time I'd eaten something that wasn't instant ramen or day-old bread from the convenience store. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Another delivery queued up, another address across town, another few dollars that wouldn't be enough. It was never enough. I pushed through the heavy glass door, and the warmth hit me like a physical thing. Crystal chandeliers caught the light and scattered it across white tablecloths and polished silverware. Everyone looked up, not at me, but through me, the way people do when you're wearing a bright red delivery uniform and smell like rain and cheap detergent. I was invisible here, a ghost carrying food from one world into another. The hostess, all sharp cheekbones and sharper judgment, pointed toward the back without a word. Table 12. I wove between tables where couples murmured over wine that cost more than my security deposit, past businessmen who loosened their ties and laughed too loud. That's when I saw him. He sat in the corner booth, the kind of spot that gave a clear view of every entrance and exit. Even seated, I could tell he was tall, built like someone who'd learned young that the world was something you either dominated or got crushed by. His suit was black, expensive in a way that didn't need labels, the kind of tailoring that whispered old money and older violence. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, all sharp angles and harder edges. But it was his eyes that stopped me mid-step. Dark, almost black, and so intensely focused on the blonde woman across from him that the air around their table seemed to shimmer with tension. She was beautiful in the way magazine covers are beautiful. Perfect hair, perfect dress, perfect smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She leaned forward, touching his hand, and I saw the massive diamond on her finger catch the light. His fiancée, I realized. Had to be. I approached their table, my heart hammering for reasons I couldn't name. As I got closer, I caught his scent, something dark and woody, mixed with the faint metallic tang of danger that made every instinct I had scream at me to turn around. 2 men in dark suits stood nearby, their eyes constantly scanning the room. Security. This wasn't just any wealthy businessman. "Delivery for table 12, I said, my voice barely audible over the restaurant's ambient music. The woman, his fiancée, looked up at me with eyes like blue ice. "We didn't order anything." I checked the receipt, confusion flooding through me. "It says table 12, carbonara, and—" I said we didn't order it. Her voice could have cut glass. "Take it back." But as I turned to leave, I noticed something. 3 men had entered through the main door, their movements too synchronized, too purposeful. They didn't look at the hostess. They didn't look at menus. They looked at him, the man in the black suit, with the kind of focus that made my delivery bag feel suddenly very heavy in my hands. My father had been a cop before the cancer took him. He'd taught me things, showed me things. How to read a room, how to spot danger before it spotted you. And right now, every lesson he'd ever taught me was screaming that something was very, very wrong. I glanced back at the blonde woman. She was checking her phone, and I saw it, just for a second, the slight curl of satisfaction at the corner of her mouth. The way her eyes flicked toward the 3 men, then back down, the way she shifted her chair back, just slightly, creating distance. She knew they were coming. She'd been waiting for them. My hands moved before my brain caught up. I grabbed a napkin from the next table, pulled the pen from my delivery bag, the same pen I used to get signatures, and scribbled 8 words that would either save a stranger's life or end mine. "Your fiancé set a trap. Leave now." I walked back to their table, my pulse thundering in my ears so loud I was sure everyone could hear it. The 3 men were moving closer, weaving between tables with predatory grace. 30 seconds, maybe less. "Actually," I said, my voice somehow steady despite the terror flooding my system. "This order is for you, compliments of the house. I set the bag down on their table, and as I did, I pressed the folded napkin directly into his hand. His fingers closed around it reflexively, and for one brief, electric moment, our eyes met. Up close, he was devastating. Dangerous and beautiful like a blade catching firelight. His gaze held mine for a heartbeat, then dropped to the napkin. I saw the exact moment he read it. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, and something dark and lethal flickered across his face. He didn't look at the blonde woman. He didn't look at the approaching men. He looked at me. Really looked at me, like I'd suddenly become the only visible person in the room. "Thank you," he said, his voice low and rough, textured like expensive whiskey. Then, to the woman across from him, "We're leaving. Now." "What?" She blinked, her perfect mask slipping for just a second. "But we haven't even—" "Now, Isabella." The command in his voice was absolute. He stood in one fluid motion, his hand closing around her wrist. Not gentle, but not quite rough either. The two security men flanked them immediately, and I saw one speak urgently into an earpiece. The three approaching men stopped, their hands moving inside their jackets. Everything happened at once. The man in the black suit moved toward a side exit I hadn't noticed before, pulling his fiancée behind him. One of his security men stepped between him and the approaching threat. The restaurant erupted into chaos. People screaming, chairs scraping, dishes crashing, and I stood there, frozen, clutching an empty delivery bag, as gunshots shattered the crystal chandeliers above. Someone grabbed my arm and yanked me down. I hit the floor hard, my palms scraping against polished wood. More shots. Breaking glass. A woman's scream that cut off too suddenly. The acrid smell of gunpowder mixed with truffle oil and terror. I crawled under a table, my breath coming in ragged gasps. Through the forest of chair legs and panicked feet, I could see the side exit where he'd disappeared. One of his security men was down, blood pooling beneath him. The three attackers were pushing forward, and more people, restaurant staff, customers, were caught in the crossfire. This was my fault. I'd triggered this. That note. A hand clamped over my mouth, and I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I was yanked backward, pulled through a service door I hadn't seen, into a kitchen that smelled like basil and burning meat. The hand released me, and I spun around, ready to fight, ready to— It was him. The man from table 12 stood in front of me, his suit jacket torn at the shoulder, a thin line of blood on his temple. His security man flanked him, gun drawn. And behind them, looking furious and frightened in equal measure, was the blonde fiancée. "Who sent you?" His voice was deadly calm, each word precisely placed like a chess piece moving toward checkmate. No one sent me. I'm just a delivery girl. I saw— You saw what, exactly? He moved closer, and I backed against a steel prep counter, my hands gripping the cold metal. His eyes were black holes that could swallow you whole. This close? I could see the violence written into every line of his body, the kind of danger that didn't need to announce itself. I saw her looking at them. The words tumbled out. The men who came in. She knew they were coming. She was waiting for them. I thought you should know. Silence. Heavy and suffocating. Then Isabella laughed, a brittle sound like breaking ice. "This is absurd, Dante. You're listening to some random delivery girl over me? Over us?" Dante. His name tasted like forbidden fruit. His head turned slowly toward her, and something in that movement made my blood run cold. "Were you waiting for them, Isabella? Of course not. I don't even know what she's— Your phone." He held out his hand. "Give it to me." "Dante, this is ridiculous. Your phone." The command in his voice left no room for argument. She pulled it from her purse with shaking hands and slapped it into his palm. He unlocked it with practiced ease. Apparently he knew her password, and began scrolling. I watched his face, watched the way his jaw clenched tighter with each passing second. When he looked up, his eyes had gone completely empty. Cold. Dead. "Get out," he said softly. "Dante, please, let me explain. Get out before I forget that you were once something to me." Isabella's face crumpled, then hardened into something ugly. She looked at me with pure hatred. This is your fault, you stupid little... The security man stepped forward, cutting off her words. She stumbled back, then turned and ran, her heels clicking against tile like the countdown to detonation. And then there were 3 of us in that kitchen. Me, Dante, and his security man, while chaos continued to reign in the restaurant beyond the door. Dante turned those black eyes back to me, and I realized with sudden, terrifying clarity that I'd just destroyed a mafia boss's engagement and saved his life in the same breath. I had no idea which of those things would get me killed first. "What's your name?" he asked. "Mara," I whispered. "Mara Chen." He studied me for a long moment, and I felt stripped bare under that gaze, every secret and scar exposed. Then he reached into his jacket. I flinched and pulled out a business card. Not a gun. A card. "You saved my life tonight, Mara Chen." He pressed the card into my hand, his fingers warm against my cold skin. "That means you're mine now, under my protection, whether you want it or not. I don't understand. You will." He turned toward a back exit, his security man already checking the alley beyond. Then he paused, looked back at me over his shoulder. "Someone will contact you. When they do, you come, no questions. Understand?" I nodded, unable to form words. He disappeared into the night, leaving me alone in a kitchen that smelled like burning dreams, clutching a business card that would change everything. The card was simple, black with silver lettering, Dante Moretti. Below it, a phone number. Nothing else. I heard sirens in the distance, getting closer, and knew I needed to leave before the police arrived. Before they started asking questions I couldn't answer. I slipped out the back exit, into an alley that reeked of garbage and rain and the metallic tang of blood. My delivery bag was gone, lost somewhere in the chaos. My phone was still buzzing with notifications, missed deliveries, angry messages from my dispatcher, threats about my job. None of it mattered anymore. I'd slipped a note to a mafia boss, and now my life belonged to him. The rain had stopped, but I was still shaking as I walked home through streets that suddenly felt full of eyes watching from the shadows. I didn't sleep that night. My apartment was a 5th-floor walk-up in a building that should have been condemned decades ago. The radiator clanked and hissed but produced no heat, and the window didn't close all the way, letting in a draft that made the cheap curtains flutter like ghosts. I sat on my mattress, no bed frame, just the mattress on the floor, and stared at Dante Moretti's business card until the words blurred together. The news was calling it a gang-related shooting at upscale restaurant. 3 dead, including one of Dante's security men, 7 injured. The police were looking for witnesses. They had grainy security footage of a person of interest in a red delivery uniform. Me. My phone buzzed for the 100th time. My dispatcher had fired me via text message at 2 a.m, abandoning deliveries. Don't bother coming in. As if I'd abandoned them by choice. As if I hadn't nearly died in that restaurant. I had $43 in my bank account. Rent was due in 6 days. I'd already sold everything worth selling. My laptop, my mother's jewelry, even my father's police badge, though that one still made my chest ache when I thought about it. The card sat on my palm, impossibly heavy for something so small. You're mine now. Under my protection. What did that even mean? Protection from what? From the men who'd tried to kill him? From the police who were looking for witnesses? From the fiancé whose betrayal I'd exposed? I pressed my fingers against my temples, trying to push back the headache that had been building since I'd left Luciano's. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it all again. The gunshots, the blood. Dante's black eyes boring into mine like he could see straight through to my bones. Dawn came slowly, gray light seeping through my inadequate curtains. I hadn't changed out of my uniform. It still smelled like rain and fear. My hands were scraped raw from hitting the restaurant floor, small wounds that stung when I flexed my fingers. I needed to think, needed to figure out what to do, but my mind kept circling back to one inescapable fact. I'd witnessed something. I knew something. And in the world Dante Moretti inhabited, that made me either an asset or a liability. The question was, which one? My phone rang at exactly 8 o'clock, making me jump so hard I knocked over the cup of water I'd been nursing all night. Unknown number. My thumb hovered over the decline button. It rang again immediately after I let it go to voicemail. And again. On the fourth call, I answered. Miss Chen. The voice was male, professional, with an accent I couldn't quite place. A car will arrive at your building in 20 minutes. You will get in. You will not bring your phone. You will not tell anyone where you're going. Who is this? 20 minutes, Miss Chen. The black Mercedes. Don't be late. He hung up. I stared at my phone, my heart hammering against my ribs. This was insane. I should call the police. I should run. I should do literally anything except get into a strange car sent by a Mafia boss, but I thought about my empty bank account, my terminated job, the police looking for a witness who probably wouldn't survive long enough to testify anyway. You're mine now. I had 19 minutes. I changed into the only clean clothes I had left. Black jeans that were more holes than denim, a gray sweater that used to be my father's, too big in the shoulders but warm. I washed my face in the bathroom sink where the mirror was cracked down the middle, splitting my reflection into two separate girls. The old Mara, who delivered food and kept her head down, and someone new, someone I didn't recognize yet. I left my phone on the mattress, where it continued to buzz with notifications I'd never read. The Mercedes was waiting when I reached the street, so perfectly black it seemed to absorb light. The back door opened as I approached, and I saw a man in a dark suit. Not Dante, just another security guard with cold eyes and a gun-shaped bulge under his jacket. Miss Chen. He gestured to the empty seat. I got in because there was nothing else to do. Because I was already in too deep. Because some part of me, the part that had pressed that note into Dante's hand, wanted to see what came next. The interior smelled like leather and something else. Something dark and expensive that reminded me of Dante. The windows were tinted so dark I could barely see out, and there was a privacy screen between me and the driver. I was in a mobile prison, racing toward an unknown destination. We drove for 40 minutes, leaving the city behind. The buildings grew smaller, then disappeared entirely, replaced by trees that had begun to shed their autumn leaves. My fingers twisted in my lap, leaving red marks on my pale skin. When we finally stopped, I couldn't see where we were. The security man opened my door and gestured for me to follow him. We were in front of massive iron gates that opened silently, revealing a driveway that curved up through manicured grounds toward a house that looked more like a fortress. No, not a house, an estate. Stone and glass and money that screamed old power, the kind that didn't need to announce itself. Security cameras tracked our movement. I saw at least 4 other guards positioned around the property, their presence both obvious and threatening. This was Dante's world, and I'd just stepped into it wearing holes in my jeans. The security man led me through the front door, solid wood that probably cost more than my annual income, and into a foyer with marble floors and a chandelier that scattered rainbow light across white walls. Everything was pristine, cold, perfect. I felt like a stain on expensive fabric. "Wait here," the guard said, then disappeared down a hallway. I stood in the middle of all that perfection, my cheap sneakers squeaking against marble, and tried not to touch anything. Tried not to breathe too hard, tried not to think about how far out of my depth I was. Miss Chen. I spun around and there he was. Dante Moretti in daylight was somehow more terrifying than Dante in the restaurant's dim lighting. He wore black slacks and a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms corded with muscle and scattered with scars. His dark hair was slightly mussed, like he'd been running his hands through it. The cut on his temple from last night had been cleaned and bandaged, a small white square against tan skin, but it was still his eyes that held me frozen. Black and bottomless and fixed on me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. "You came," he said, moving closer with the fluid grace of a predator. "Smart girl. Did I have a choice?" A ghost of a smile touched his lips. No, he was close enough now that I could smell him. That dark, woody scent mixed with coffee and something sharper. Danger, my hindbrain supplied. "He smells like danger. You're probably wondering why you're here," he continued, circling me slowly. I forced myself to stand still, to not turn and track his movement like prey watching a wolf. The thought crossed my mind. Isabella. He said the name like it tasted rotten. "My former fiancée. She made a deal with the Volkov family, Russian organization that's been trying to move into my territory for years. She was going to let them kill me in exchange for..." He paused in front of me, his gaze burning into mine. Well, that doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that you saw. You knew. And you warned me. I just did what anyone would. No. The word cracked like a whip. Anyone else would have delivered their food and left, would have kept their head down and their mouth shut, would have let me die rather than risk their own neck. He reached out and I flinched, but he only tucked a strand of my dark hair behind my ear. His fingers were warm, calloused. But not you. Why? I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think with him this close. My father was a cop. He taught me to notice things, to act when something was wrong. Your father. Something flickered in those black eyes. He's dead? 3 years ago. Cancer. And your mother? Dead before I can remember her. He studied me for a long moment, and I felt dissected, examined, catalogued. So you're alone in the world. No family. No one who would notice if you disappeared. Terror shot through me, cold and sharp. Is that what you're going to do? Make me disappear? If I wanted you dead, Mara, you'd already be dead. He stepped back, giving me room to breathe. No, I brought you here because you saved my life. Because I owe you a debt. And because Isabella knows about you. My stomach dropped. What? She saw the note, saw you give it to me. And Isabella... His jaw tightened, muscle jumping. Isabella is vindictive. She'll blame you for exposing her, for ruining her plans. The Volkovs will want you dead for the same reason. You're a witness to their failed hit, a loose end. I didn't see anything. I don't know anything. I was just... Doesn't matter what you know or don't know. He moved to a side table where someone had left coffee in a silver pot. Poured 2 cups without asking if I wanted any. They'll assume you know everything, assume I told you things, and they'll come for you. He handed me a cup, and I took it with shaking hands. The warmth bled through the porcelain, anchoring me to reality. So, what happens now? I whispered. Now you stay here, under my protection, in my home. He sipped his coffee, watching me over the rim. Until Isabella and the Volkovs are dealt with. Stay here? For how long? As long as it takes. I can't just... I have bills. Rent. I need to find another job. All taken care of. He waved a dismissive hand. Your landlord has been paid through the end of the year. Your belongings are being collected as we speak. You'll have everything you need here. The coffee cup slipped from my fingers, shattering against marble in an explosion of porcelain and dark liquid. You can't just take over my life. I can. I have. He set his own cup down with deliberate care. You became my responsibility the moment you gave me that note. Mine to protect. Mine to keep safe. He moved closer, backing me against the wall until I could feel the cold stone through my sweater. Mine. The word hung between us, heavy with implications I didn't want to examine. This is insane, I breathed. This is survival. His hand came up, bracing against the wall beside my head. You think you can go back to your life? Go back to delivering food? Living in that death trap apartment? They'd find you in a day, maybe less. And when they did, he leaned in, his lips almost brushing my ear. They'd make you scream for days before they let you die. They'd want to know everything you saw. Everything I might have told you, and trust me, Piccola, you'd tell them everything just to make it stop. I was shaking now, tremors running through my entire body. You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to keep you alive. He pulled back just enough to meet my eyes. You saved my life. Now I'm saving yours, whether you like it or not. A door opened somewhere in the house, followed by voices. Dante straightened, his hand falling away from the wall, leaving me cold despite the heated conversation. Marco will show you to your room, he said, his voice returning to that cold, professional tone. You'll have everything you need. Stay inside the grounds. Don't try to leave. Don't try to contact anyone. And Mara? He paused at the doorway, looking back at me. This isn't a prison. It's a sanctuary. The only place you're safe right now is with me. Then he was gone, leaving me alone with spilled coffee and shattered porcelain, and the terrifying realization that my life was no longer my own. The room they gave me was bigger than my entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked grounds that seemed to stretch forever. Perfectly manicured lawns, gardens that even in late autumn held some color, and in the distance, what looked like a small lake. The bed was enormous, dressed in cream-colored linens that probably cost more than my monthly rent. There was a sitting area with a velvet couch, a marble bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in, and a walk-in closet that echoed when I stepped inside. My belongings, when they arrived 2 hours later, looked pathetic spread across that massive bed. 3 pairs of jeans, 5 t-shirts, 2 sweaters, underwear that had seen better days, my father's old police jacket, worn at the elbows, a shoebox full of photographs, the only memories I had left of my parents, everything I owned in the world, and it didn't even fill one drawer. A knock at the door made me jump. A woman entered without waiting for my response. Older, maybe 60, with steel gray hair pulled into a tight bun and sharp eyes that cataloged me in seconds. "I'm Lucia," she said in accented English, Italian threading through each word. "I manage Mr. Moretti's household. He's asked me to ensure you have everything you need." "I'm fine, thank you." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "You're wearing clothes with holes in them. You're not fine." She moved to the closet, opening doors I hadn't noticed. "These are for you." Mr. Moretti had them brought in. I followed her, my breath catching. The closet was full. Dresses, jeans, sweaters, all in my size. I reached out to touch a cashmere sweater, softer than anything I'd ever owned, then snatched my hand back like it had burned me. "I can't accept these. Mr. Moretti doesn't ask permission." Lucia's expression softened slightly. "You may as well get used to that. When he decides something, it happens. Fighting it only makes things harder. I'm not his charity case." "No," she agreed. "You're his responsibility. That's far more dangerous." She moved toward the door, then paused. "Dinner is at 7. Someone will come for you. Wear something nice. And Miss Chen?" Her eyes held a warning. "Don't try to leave. The guards have orders to stop you. Gently, if possible, but they will stop you." She left me alone with a closet full of expensive clothes, and the growing realization that I'd traded one kind of poverty for another. Instead of lacking money, I now lacked freedom. I spent the afternoon exploring my gilded cage. The bedroom had its own balcony, but when I tried the door, it was locked from the outside. The windows didn't open, beautiful prison bars made of glass and steel. At 6:30, another knock. A young woman, maybe my age, with kind eyes and nervous hands. "Miss Chen? I'm Elena. I'm here to help you get ready for dinner. I can dress myself. Please." She twisted her fingers together. Mr. Moretti was very specific. "I'll lose my job if you don't." I sighed and let her in. She'd brought makeup, curling irons, things I hadn't used in years, couldn't afford to use. She worked quickly and efficiently, transforming my reflection into something I barely recognized. Dark hair falling in soft waves, subtle makeup that made my eyes look huge and my skin luminous. The dress she picked was simple, but elegant. Deep green that brought out the golden undertones in my skin. It fit perfectly, hugging curves I usually hid under baggy clothes. "You look beautiful," Elena said softly, "like you belong here." But I didn't belong here. I belonged in a cramped apartment with a broken radiator, delivering food to people who never saw me. This was just another costume, another way of being invisible. Marco, the security guard who'd driven me here, came to escort me downstairs at precisely 7 o'clock. We walked through hallways lined with art that was probably worth millions, past rooms I glimpsed but didn't dare enter. Everything whispered of old money and older violence. The dining room took my breath away. A table long enough to seat 20, set with china and crystal that caught the chandelier light and threw it back in prismatic colors. And at the head of the table, Dante Moretti, wearing a black suit that looked like sin tailored by angels. He stood when I entered, his eyes tracking over me in a way that made heat crawl up my neck. "Mara, you look..." He paused, something dangerous flickering across his face. "Beautiful. You didn't have to do all this." I gestured at the dress, at the room, at everything. The clothes, the room, any of it. "Sit." It wasn't a request. I sat in the chair Marco pulled out for me, 3 seats down from Dante. Too close and not close enough. The table stretched between us like a battlefield. Staff appeared with wine, with appetizers that were tiny works of art. I didn't touch anything. My stomach too twisted to even think about eating. "You're angry," Dante observed, swirling wine in his glass. "I'm trapped. You're protected. Same thing, from where I'm sitting." His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Tell me about your father, the cop who taught you to notice things." I didn't want to talk about my father. Didn't want to give Dante any more pieces of myself. But something in his expression, genuine curiosity mixed with that intense focus, made the words spill out anyway. He was a good man. Honest cop in a city that didn't want honest cops. He saw things others missed, taught me to do the same, to watch people's hands, their eyes, to know when something was wrong. I picked up my wine glass just to have something to do with my hands. He died broke and broken, eaten alive by cancer and medical bills. All that goodness got him was an early grave. And yet you still did the right thing, warned me, even though it cost you everything. Maybe I'm just stupid. No. Dante set down his glass with careful precision. "You're extraordinary. Do you know how many people witnessed what Isabella did? 3 members of my own security detail saw her looking at those men, saw the recognition. But they said nothing, because they were smart, because they knew that getting involved meant becoming a target. Then they were smarter than me. They were cowards." His voice had gone cold, deadly, and they're being dealt with accordingly. I didn't want to know what "dealt with accordingly" meant in his world. We ate in silence for a while, staff appearing and disappearing like ghosts. The food was incredible, each course more elaborate than the last. But it all tasted like ash in my mouth. "Tell me about Isabella," I said finally. "Why was she trying to kill you?" Dante's jaw tightened. "Money. Power. The usual reasons people betray those they claim to love." He pushed food around his plate without eating. "Her father runs a smaller operation, wanted to merge with mine through marriage. I agreed because it made strategic sense. Because Isabella was beautiful and appropriate, and I thought," he laughed, bitter and sharp. "I thought she understood what it meant to be in this world, the loyalty it requires, but she fell in love with someone else? Worse, she got greedy. The Volkovs offered her more than I could give her through legal means, offered to let her father's organization absorb mine after I was dead. She'd have everything, the money, the power, the territory, and she'd have it without having to actually marry me." The hurt in his voice was subtle, but there, buried under layers of ice and rage. For just a moment, I saw him as something other than a terrifying mafia boss, saw him as a man who'd been betrayed by the woman he'd planned to marry. "I'm sorry," I said softly. His eyes snapped to mine, sharp and searching. "Don't pity me, Mara. I'm not some wounded animal. I don't pity you. I know what betrayal feels like. What it's like to trust someone and have them destroy you." Something shifted in his expression, walls coming down just slightly. "Who betrayed you?" I shouldn't tell him. Shouldn't give him more ammunition, more ways to burrow under my skin. But the wine had loosened my tongue, and suddenly the words were pouring out. "His name was Ryan. We grew up together, practically best friends. When my father got sick, when the medical bills started piling up, Ryan offered to help. Said he had connections, could get us better payment plans." I laughed, the sound hollow. Turned out his connections were loan sharks. He got a commission for every desperate person he brought to them. By the time my father died, we owed them so much money that I'd been working 3 jobs for 3 years and barely made a dent. "These loan sharks," Dante said quietly, dangerously. "They have names? It doesn't matter. It's handled." "Nothing is handled until I say it's handled." He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. "Give me their names, Mara." "Why?" "Because you're under my protection now. That means anyone who hurt you answers to me." The possessiveness in his voice should have terrified me. Instead, it sent a warm shiver down my spine that I absolutely did not want to examine. "Viktor Kozlov," I heard myself say. He runs a loan operation out of a pawn shop in Brooklyn. Dante typed the name, his expression carved from stone. Consider your debt paid. By tomorrow morning, Kozlov won't be in business anymore. You can't just... I can. I will. He set down his phone and fixed me with that black gaze. You saved my life, Piccola. That debt supersedes anything you owed to anyone else. Your problems are now my problems. Your enemies are now my enemies. The staff brought dessert, something chocolate and decadent that I couldn't focus on. The air between us had grown thick, charged with tension I didn't know how to name. Why do you call me that? I asked. Piccola. It means little one, small. His lips curved. You're what? 5'3"? Tiny thing, really. Especially compared to the monsters you're dealing with now. I'm not weak. No, he agreed. You're not. Weak people don't risk their lives for strangers. Weak people don't stand up to mafia bosses in their own homes. He stood, moving around the table toward me. But you are small, fragile, breakable, and the idea of someone breaking you. His hand cupped my cheek, thumb brushing my lower lip. That bothers me more than it should. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. His touch was fire and ice, burning and freezing all at once. You barely know me, I whispered. I know enough. I know you're brave and reckless and far too good for the life I'm dragging you into. His thumb continued its maddening sweep across my lip. I know that every instinct I have is screaming at me to keep you here, locked away where no one can touch you, to own every breath you take, every thought in that sharp mind. He leaned closer, his lips almost brushing mine. Tell me that doesn't terrify you. It terrifies me, I admitted. But not for the reasons you think. Why then? Because part of me wants to let you. The confession hung between us, dangerous and raw. Dante's eyes had gone completely black, pupils blown wide, and I could feel his control fraying at the edges. Then his phone rang, shattering the moment. He pulled back with a curse in Italian, answering it with a sharp, "What?" I watched his expression change as he listened, going from frustrated to cold to absolutely lethal in the span of seconds. "When?" he demanded. "How many?" A pause. "I'm on my way." He ended the call and looked at me, and what I saw in his face made my blood run cold. What happened? Isabella. The name came out like a death sentence. She's here, at the gates with a dozen of the Volkov's men. She's demanding I turn you over to them. My heart stopped. What? She's claiming you're a witness to crimes I committed, that you're being held here against your will. His hand closed around my wrist, pulling me toward the door. She's threatening to call the police to make this a public spectacle. Force my hand. Then let me go. Give her what she wants. He spun on me so fast I stumbled. You think I'd ever give you to them, ever let them touch you? His hands gripped my shoulders, hard enough to bruise. You're mine, Mara. Mine to protect. Mine to keep. And I will burn this entire city to the ground before I let Isabella take you from me. The possessiveness in his voice, the absolute certainty, should have sent me running. Instead, it made something in my chest crack open, warmth flooding through the broken places. What are you going to do? I asked. His smile was all teeth and violence. I'm going to remind Isabella exactly who she betrayed, and then I'm going to end this, once and for all. He pulled me through the house, toward the front door where I could already hear raised voices. Marco and 3 other security men flanked us, guns drawn. Through the windows I could see them, Isabella in a white coat that made her look angelic, surrounded by men in dark suits carrying enough firepower to start a war. And standing beside her, a man who made even Dante's security team look nervous, tall, blonde, with ice blue eyes and a scar that ran from temple to jaw. That's Alexei Volkov, Dante said quietly. Isabella's new benefactor, the man who wants me dead. He opened the door and stepped out into the night, pulling me with him. The November wind cut through my thin dress, but it wasn't the cold that made me shiver. It was the way Alexei looked at me, like I was already dead, just a body waiting to hit the ground. Dante! Isabella called out, her voice carrying across the space between us. Be reasonable. Give us the girl, and we'll leave peacefully. The girl, Dante said softly, dangerously, is under my protection. She stays with me. She's a witness to attempted murder, Alexei said, his accent thick and harsh. She needs to answer questions. The only questions she'll be answering are mine. The standoff stretched, tension building like a storm about to break. I could feel Dante's control, feel the leashed violence in every line of his body. Then Isabella smiled, and my blood ran cold. Such a shame, she said. I really did like you, Dante, but if you won't give her up willingly. She raised her hand, and 12 guns pointed directly at us. Everything happened in fractured seconds. Dante shoved me behind him, his body becoming a shield between me and 12 loaded guns. His security team moved as one, creating a barrier of flesh and weapons. The air crackled with violence about to erupt. You really want to do this here, Alexei? Dante's voice was ice and iron. Start a war on my doorstep? Kill a woman under my protection? You left me no choice. Alexei's finger moved to the trigger. Then the world exploded with light. Floodlights blazed to life around the entire property, so bright they turned night into artificial day. I heard the unmistakable sound of dozens of safeties clicking off, and suddenly, the Volkov's 12 men seemed insignificant compared to the small army that materialized from every shadow, every corner, every concealed position around Dante's estate. 50 men, maybe more. All armed. All aimed at Isabella and Alexei. You came to my home, Dante said, his voice carrying deadly calm across the sudden silence. Threatened what's mine. Did you really think I'd be unprepared? He took a step forward, and I felt the shift in power like a physical thing. You're surrounded, outgunned, and trespassing. The only reason you're still breathing is because I'm curious what made you stupid enough to come here. Isabella's perfect mask cracked, fear bleeding through. Dante, please. You don't get to use my name anymore. He cut her off with surgical precision. You lost that right when you tried to have me killed. Another step forward. His men moved with him. A synchronized show of force. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave. Now. And you're going to tell whoever's pulling your strings that Mara Chen is untouchable. She's under my protection, which means she's under the protection of every family allied with me. Anyone who comes for her comes for all of us. The Bratva won't accept this, Alexei spat. You can't just claim some random girl and expect, I can do whatever I want. That's what power means. Dante's smile was a blade in the dark. But if you need a more formal arrangement? He turned, pulled me forward until I stood beside him, his arm an iron band around my waist. Mara isn't just under my protection. As of now, she's my fiancée. The world tilted sideways. What? The word escaped me in a breathless gasp. Congratulations are in order, I think. Dante looked down at me, and what I saw in his eyes stole my breath. Possession, determination, and something darker I couldn't name. Isabella wanted to destroy what was mine. So I'm replacing her with someone who actually has loyalty, who actually has worth. My mind screamed that this was insane, that I should protest, should fight. But his grip tightened in warning, and I understood. This was survival. This was the only play that made me too valuable to kill. If I was engaged to Dante Moretti, killing me would start a war bigger than anyone wanted. Isabella made a sound like a wounded animal. You can't be serious. Her? Some pathetic delivery girl? More loyal than you ever were. Dante's voice could have cut steel. Now get off my property before I decide bullets are faster than conversation. For a moment, I thought Alexei would refuse. Thought he'd call Dante's bluff and this would end in blood and screaming. But then he looked around at the small army surrounding them, calculated odds that weren't in his favor, and grabbed Isabella's arm. This isn't over, he promised. Yes, Dante said quietly. It is. You just don't know it yet. We watched them retreat, engines starting, tires squealing as they fled into the night. Only when the last car disappeared did Dante's arm release me, leaving me swaying on legs that suddenly couldn't hold my weight. Inside, he ordered. Now. I let him guide me back through the door, through the foyer, into a study I hadn't seen before. Dark wood, leather furniture, the smell of old books and expensive whiskey. He poured 2 drinks with hands that were perfectly steady, while mine shook so hard I nearly dropped the glass he pressed into my palm. Drink. I drank. The whiskey burned going down, but it grounded me, brought feeling back to my numb limbs. Your fiancé? I finally managed. You couldn't have warned me? Would you have agreed? No. Exactly. He downed his own drink in one swallow. It was the only play that made sense. The only way to make you untouchable without starting an immediate war. You can't just decide we're engaged. I can, and I did. He moved closer, backing me against his desk. You're alive because of that decision, Mara. In my world, an engaged woman, especially one engaged to me, is protected by codes older than any of us. Isabella can't touch you now without declaring war on me and every family that respects those codes. This is insane, I whispered. But my body betrayed me, leaning into his warmth despite every logical protest. This is necessary. His hands came up to frame my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. I told you. You're mine now. This just makes it official. I'm not yours. I'm not anyone's. Keep telling yourself that, Piccola. His thumb brushed my cheekbone, but we both know the truth. You've been mine since the moment you put that note in my hand, since you risked everything to save a stranger. You just didn't know it yet. The certainty in his voice should have terrified me. Instead, it ignited something in my chest, something warm and dangerous that I'd been trying to ignore since I first met his eyes across that restaurant. What happens now? I asked. Now we make it convincing. He stepped back, pulling something from his desk drawer. When he turned back, he held a ring. A massive emerald surrounded by diamonds. The green so deep it looked like captured light. This was my grandmother's. Belonged to her mother before that. In my family it goes to the woman who... He paused, something flickering across his face. To the woman who matters. He took my hand, and I should have pulled away, should have run. But I stood frozen as he slid that ring onto my finger, the metal warm like it had been waiting for me. It fit perfectly. Tomorrow we'll make the announcement, he said, still holding my hand. Let every family know. The engagement is real, binding. You're protected by every code and tradition that keeps this world from tearing itself apart. And what do you get out of this? I asked. Why go this far for someone you barely know? His expression went dark, dangerous. You saved my life. That means something to me. Means everything. And maybe... He pulled me closer, until our bodies were almost touching. Maybe I want something real, something that isn't built on strategy and alliances. Maybe I want someone who chose to protect me when they had nothing to gain and everything to lose. I'm not her, I said. I'm not Isabella. I can't be what you need in this world. You already are. He leaned down, his lips brushing my ear. You're brave and loyal, and you don't know how to lie. In my world, those qualities are rarer than diamonds. His breath was hot against my skin. So yes, Mara-chen, you're my fiancé now. You'll wear my ring, live in my house, and let me protect you. And eventually, his hand slid to the small of my back, pulling me flush against him. Eventually, you'll stop fighting what we both feel. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think past the heat of his body, the intensity of his gaze. This is just pretend, I whispered, trying to convince myself as much as him. Keep telling yourself that. His smile was dark promise, but we both know the truth. He released me suddenly, leaving me cold despite the warmth of the room. Marco will take you back to your room. Rest. Tomorrow, your new life begins. I walked to the door on unsteady legs, that massive ring heavy on my finger. At the threshold, I turned back. Dante stood at the window, silhouetted against the night, looking every inch the dangerous man he was. Why me? I asked one more time. Really? He didn't turn around. Because you saw me, Mara, not the money or the power or the fear. You saw a man about to die, and you chose to save him. No one's done that in a very long time. I left him there, surrounded by shadows and secrets, and let Marco guide me back to my golden cage. The ring caught the light as I walked, throwing green fire across the walls. I was engaged to a Mafia boss. My life would never be the same. 3 weeks passed in a blur of unreality. The announcement went out the morning after that confrontation at the gates. Formal notifications to every major family, every organization that mattered in Dante's world. Mara Chen, formerly nobody, was now engaged to one of the most powerful men in the city. The ring on my finger became both shield and shackle, protecting me while binding me to a life I'd never chosen. The media picked up the story within days. "Mystery woman captures notorious bachelor's heart," screamed one headline. Another called me a modern Cinderella. They didn't know how right they were. I'd gone from rags to riches overnight. But this fairy tale had teeth. Dante was attentive. Possessive in ways that should have sent me running, but instead made my pulse race. He insisted I eat breakfast with him every morning, our conversations ranging from my childhood to his business dealings, though he kept the darkest details carefully hidden. He had clothes designed specifically for me, listened when I mentioned liking old movies, and filled the estate's library with books I'd mentioned wanting to read. But he also had guards shadow my every move within the estate. Had security cameras installed in every room except my bedroom and bathroom. Knew exactly where I was, what I was doing, every moment of every day. It should have felt like a prison. Sometimes it did. But other times, when he looked at me with those black eyes full of possessive heat, when his hand found mine at dinner, when he unconsciously moved his body between me and any perceived threat, those times, it felt dangerously close to something else entirely. The loan sharks who'd held my debt disappeared. Just gone. Their operation shut down overnight. Dante never mentioned it, but I knew. Just like I knew that 3 of the men who'd attacked the restaurant had been found dead in the river, and Isabella's father's organization had suddenly pledged loyalty to Dante rather than alliance with the Volkovs. The pieces on Dante's chessboard were moving, and I was no longer just a pawn. I was the queen, protected, powerful, and completely trapped. On the 22nd day of my captivity, because that's what it was, no matter how gilded, everything changed. I woke to silence. Wrong silence. The estate was never truly quiet. There were always guards, staff, the hum of security systems. But that morning, nothing. Just eerie, suffocating stillness. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand, the new one Dante had given me, secure and monitored, and called his number. It went straight to voicemail. Panic fluttered in my chest. I threw on jeans and a sweater, opened my bedroom door to find the hallway empty. No guards, no staff. Just abandoned silence that screamed danger. "Hello?" My voice echoed through empty corridors. Nothing. I made my way downstairs, my heart hammering so hard I could hear it. The foyer was empty. The kitchen, abandoned. Every room I checked was the same. No people, no signs of life, just that terrible silence. Then I heard it. A muffled sound from below, from somewhere deeper in the house. I found the door tucked behind a bookshelf in Dante's study, a hidden entrance I'd never noticed before. It stood slightly ajar, revealing stairs that descended into darkness. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to hide, to call for help. But Dante was down there. I knew it with bone-deep certainty. I took the stairs slowly, one hand trailing the wall for balance. The temperature dropped with each step, and I could smell it now. Blood, and gunpowder, and fear. The basement was massive, industrial. And at the center of it all stood Dante. He was covered in blood, not his own, I realized with sick relief. His white shirt was ruined, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms splattered with red. His hair was disheveled, falling across his forehead, and his eyes... God. His eyes were completely black, empty of everything except cold purpose. 3 bodies lay at his feet, and tied to a chair in front of him, beaten and bloodied but still breathing, was Alexei Volkov. "Mara." Dante's voice was rough, used. "You shouldn't be here." But I couldn't move, couldn't tear my eyes away from the scene in front of me. This was Dante's world, the violence he'd been shielding me from, the darkness he carried. I couldn't find anyone, I heard myself say. The house was empty. I sent them away. This needed to be private. He turned back to Alexei, pulling a gun from the table beside him. "He came for you, Piccola. Broke into my home with 12 men, thinking he could take what's mine while I slept. Where are they?" I whispered. The 12 men. Dante's smile was terrible. Dead. All of them. But I kept him alive because he needs to understand something before he dies. He pressed the gun to Alexei's temple. You thought you could take her from me. Thought you could use her to hurt me. But she's not a weapon you can turn against me, Alexei. She's not a weakness. She's your only weakness. Alexei spat blood. And when you're dead, we'll make her scream. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. Alexei's head snapped back, then forward, his body going slack against the restraints. Dead before the echo faded. I should have screamed, should have run, should have been horrified. But all I felt was relief. He couldn't hurt me now, couldn't threaten me, couldn't take me from Dante. When had this become my reality? When had I started thinking of Dante as safety instead of danger? He was in front of me suddenly, his bloody hands cupping my face. Are you all right? Did any of them touch you? No. I'm fine. The silence woke me. I'm sorry. And he genuinely looked it, the emptiness in his eyes filling with something warmer. I tried to finish this before you woke up. Tried to keep this from you. The others? I asked. Isabella? Dead. No emotion in the word. She was with Alexei when they breached the property. Caught a bullet in the crossfire. He studied my face, searching for... What? Horror? Fear? Does that bother you? That she's dead? It should have. But I thought about her betrayal, her willingness to have Dante killed, her threats against me. No, I admitted, it doesn't. Something shifted in his expression. Satisfaction, possession, dark pleasure. You're becoming one of us, Piccola. Learning to see the world as it really is. Is this what my life will be now? Violence and death? I'll do everything I can to keep you from it. But yes, as my wife, you'll need to understand this world. Accept it. His thumb brushed my cheekbone, leaving a smear of blood. Can you do that? Can you accept what I am? I looked past him at Alexei's body, at the evidence of violence that surrounded us, thought about the past 3 weeks. The protection, the possessiveness, the way Dante looked at me like I was something precious and dangerous all at once. I should say no. Should demand he let me go, return me to my old life. But there was no old life to return to. That girl who delivered food and kept her head down had died the moment she pressed a note into a stranger's hand. Yes, I whispered. I can accept it. Accept you. The kiss was inevitable, urgent, tasting of copper and desperation. His bloodied hands pulled me closer, and I went willingly, pressing against him despite, or maybe because of, the violence that surrounded us. This was who he was, dangerous, deadly, mine. When he pulled back, his eyes had gone molten. Marry me. Really marry me. Not just for protection or strategy. Marry me because you want this, want us. We barely know each other. I know you're brave, know you're loyal, know you see me, really see me, and don't look away. His forehead pressed against mine. I know that every moment you're not with me, I'm thinking about where you are, if you're safe, if you need something. I know that the idea of you leaving makes me want to burn the world down. That's enough, Mara. That's more than most people get. He was right. In 3 weeks, he'd learned me better than people I'd known for years. Had protected me, provided for me, possessed me in ways that should have been terrifying, but felt like coming home. Okay, I breathed. Yes, I'll marry you. Really marry you. The smile that crossed his face transformed him, made him look younger, almost vulnerable. Tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow. I'm not waiting, not giving you time to change your mind. Tomorrow, I agreed, sealing my fate. The wedding was small, private. Just Dante's most trusted men and Lucia, who cried through the entire ceremony. I wore white silk that felt like water against my skin, and Dante wore black, looking every inch the beautiful monster he was. We married in the estate's garden as winter's first snow began to fall. Our vows witnessed by men who'd killed for him, and would kill for me now too, when he slipped a second ring onto my finger. A simple platinum band that nestled against his grandmother's emerald. I felt the final lock click into place. I was Mara Moretti now, protected, possessed, and no longer alone. The reception was loud and long, full of laughter and music and dancing. Dante kept me close the entire time, his hand never leaving mine, his eyes tracking my every movement. Possessive, protective, mine. Later, when everyone had left and the estate was quiet again, he carried me upstairs to a master bedroom I'd never seen before. Our bedroom now. No more separate rooms, he murmured against my neck as he set me down. You're my wife now. You sleep beside me where I can keep you safe. I'm not going anywhere, I promised. No, he agreed, backing me toward the bed. You're not. Because you're mine, Mara, now and always, and I protect what's mine. The night blurred into heat and possession, his hands and mouth claiming every inch of me while snow fell outside our windows. He was gentle and rough, controlled and desperate, whispering words in Italian I didn't understand, but felt deep in my bones. When dawn came, I lay wrapped in his arms, his heartbeat steady beneath my ear, and realized I was happy. Genuinely, impossibly happy. I'd started as a delivery girl trying to survive, had become a witness, then a protected asset, then a fake fiancé, and somehow, through all of it, I'd become something I'd never expected. Loved. What are you thinking? Dante's voice was rough with sleep, his hand trailing patterns on my bare back. That my life is insane, I admitted. That 3 weeks ago, I was nobody. And now I'm married to you. You were never nobody. His arms tightened around me. You were always extraordinary. You just needed someone to see it. I tilted my head up to look at him. This dangerous, beautiful man who'd stolen my life and given me a new one. I don't regret it. Any of it. Good. His smile was pure satisfaction. Because I'm never letting you go. You're mine, Piccola. For the rest of our lives. Promise? I asked, only half joking. Promise. He kissed me, slow and deep and full of dark promise, till death do us part, and not even then. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing the world in white. Inside, wrapped in the arms of a man who'd burn the world to keep me safe, I finally understood what it meant to be home. I'd slipped a note to a Mafia boss and saved his life. In return, he'd claimed mine. And somehow, impossibly, that was exactly what I wanted.